2 through 5, and we'll get to number 6, public comment, written items. We have nothing. Moving to athletics, Mr. Redson.
Thank you, Mr. Manzella. Request approval of the following supplemental contracts contingent upon receipt of a signed contract no later than 1 month after issuance, including posting of the position if the contingency is not met. Assistant middle school football coach, assistant girls wrestling coaches, assistant middle school boys soccer coach, head middle school girls volleyball coach, and head 8th grade boys basketball coach. No questions or objections, I've got it placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, it will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval of the volunteer varsity girls soccer coach. No questions or objections, I've got it placed on the agenda, please.
Hearing none, it will be placed on the agenda.
And request approval to accept the resignation of the varsity head girls basketball coach effective immediately. No questions or objections, I've got it placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, it will be placed on the agenda.
Anything to add, Mr. Martucci?
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Sangston?
Nothing, thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Manzella, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renson. Moving to buildings and grounds, Mr. Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Request approval of the custodial substitute list for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, it will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval of the following event and building usage request, not like 1 through 11 spread on the minutes, and no questions or objections. Place that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
And Mr. Kokenar, you have anything to add?
No, thank you.
Mr. Martucci?
No, sir.
Mr. Brigham, Mr. Kirsch? That's all I have, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. Moving to Carnegie 3 Library, Mr. Marchand.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. We have nothing this evening. Mrs. Saxon, you can add?
Nothing, thank
That's
you.
all we have.
Thank you, Mr. Marchand. Moving to Collinsville Area Career and Technical Center, Mr. Kokenauer.
Thank you, Mr. Panzo. Request approval of the receipt of the Community Foundation Fayette County grant from the Sturge Hughes Memorial Fund in the amount of $1,500 for Carpentry Senior Awards tool sets. Received the funds on 7/13/2023. No questions or objections, I'll have that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
CTC gave a letter of support to the Fayette County Cultural Trust for Fayette County Entrepreneurship and Education Center. Letter attached. That was just information. That's all I have, Mr. Panzella.
I have a question. Letter attachment. Where's the letter attached? I didn't see it. No, I was just wondering. Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
No.
Ms. Sangston?
Nothing, thank you.
That's all we have, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kokenauer. Moving to curriculum, Mr. Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Item 11A, school-wide Title I school plans. Request approval of the 2023-2024 school-wide Title I school plans for Bullskin Township Elementary, Dunbar Township Elementary, Springfield Clifford Van Fritz Elementary, and West Crawford Elementary. No questions or objections? Like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Item 11B, Windsor Learning. Request approval to purchase Windsor Learning materials at a cost of $34,188 to be paid for from ARP ESSER funds. No questions or objections? I'd like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Item 11C, fitness equipment. Request approval to purchase fitness equipment for the Collinsville Area High School at a cost of $66,980 through Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing. No questions or objections? I'd like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Item 11D, travel. In accordance with policy number 431, request approval of the following professional employee travel. Amy Witt, senior high teacher, is requesting to attend the Computer Science Educators Forum, Allegheny Intermediate Unit 3, October 9, 2023, at an approximate cost of $150 for one substitute and mileage. No questions or objections, I'd like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Item 11E is your secondary student handbook, is information only. 11F, elementary student handbook, information only. Like those placed on the agenda?
They'll be placed on the agenda.
That's all I have. Mr. Renzi?
Nothing.
Mr. Montiel? Not here. Dr. Kins?
I have nothing, thank you.
That's all we have, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hirschman. Moving to cyber, Mr. Martret.
Thank you, Mr. Panzello. We have nothing this evening. Mr. Kokenar, everything to add?
No, thank you.
Mr. Ghost? That's it. We have nothing.
Thank you, Mr. Martret. Moving to federal programs, Mr. Martucci.
Thank you, Mr. Panzello. Request approval of the agreement between Intermediate Unit 1 and the Collinsville Area School District for Title I, Title II, and Title IV services for non-public schools for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections. I'd like to place on Wednesday's agenda.
Hearing none, it will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval to renew Screencastify for the 2023-24 school year at a cost of $13,860 to be paid for Title IV funds. No questions or objections. I'd like to place on Wednesday's agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval for up to 8 staff to attend the National Autism Conference virtually at a total cost of $2,200 for registration paid through Title II funds. No questions or objections. I'd like that placed on Wednesday's agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
And that's all I have. Mr. Martray.
Nothing.
Dr. Coons.
I have nothing, thank you.
That's all, Mr. Panzello. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martucci. Moving to finance, Mr. Renzi.
Thank you, Mr. Panzel. Request approval to solicit quotes for the tax anticipation note in the amount of $5 million for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections. I'd like that placed on the agenda, please.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval for Joe Duda, actuary, to perform professional services for the preparation of the other post-employment benefits, GASB 75, report required to, by the audit for the 2022-2023 school year at an estimated cost of $3,800 for both the Collinsville Area School District and the Collinsville Area Career and Technical Center. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval of the attached requisition orders and to authorize district business office to process orders and payments. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda, please.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
And request approval of the following donations from the Frontline Impact Project Heroes for Healthy Schools. Donate 128 cases of 300 Lysol disinfectant wipes packets. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
That's all I have. Mr. Layton, anything to add, please?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Harrison.
Nothing, thank you.
That's all I have, Mr. Panzello. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Renzi. Moving to food service, Mrs. Sangston.
Thank you, Mr. Kinzel. Request a conditional approval contingent upon successful submission of screening and background checks approval of the following addition to the cafeteria substitute list for the 23-24 school year. Questions or objections? I'd like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, it will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval of the cafeteria substitute list for the 23-24 school year as proposed. Any questions or objections? I'd like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval to award the milk and bread bids for the 23-24 school year as follows. Dairy Milk, Turner Dairy Farms, and Bread Nichols. Any objections or questions? I'd like that on the agenda.
Question.
Question?
Yes.
First of all, milk is not bid, is that right? There's a state minimum and federal minimum price for milk. Milk is not bid, is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. The Milk Marketing Board does pricing so that there are other items on the milk that the dairy does provide. So it is taking on the other items there, such as your juices, drinks, and other dairy products.
And then where is Turner Dairy Farms located?
They're right in Pittsburgh.
Do they buy local farms from around this area?
Yes,
Could you
absolutely.
give me a list of the local farms they buy from the Clarksville School District?
Absolutely.
I would love to see it. Thank you, that's all I have.
Any other questions? Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Mr. Martre?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Bruno?
Nothing else.
That's all we have, Mr. Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I'm going to ask you one question, Mr. Triffenoff. Was there a problem with our last supplier?
They did have some issues this year, more than what they've had, and that was delivery, product, and just overall we had 8 issues with milk expiring, even as close as last week. So we had some issues in that department.
Do they take care of that, or how's that?
They have taken care of it, but at that time, we had to scramble and had to either grab milk from other places, make sure the kids had milk and product.
All right, thank you. Moving to personnel review and liaison, Mr. Lake.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Request approval of the support professional substitute list for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval of the professional substitute list for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request the conditional approval contingent upon successful submission of screening and background checks of the following additions to the professional substitute list for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request the conditional approval contingent upon successful submission and screening and background checks of the following additions to the support personnel substitute list for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval to accept the decline of job offer as a special education teacher. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
And the following family and medical leaves are confirmed by the board. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval for the unpaid leave of absence for up to 10 days during the period of September 11th through September 22nd, 2023. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval for workforce development coordinator to take an unpaid leave of absence effective June 15th, 2023 until on or about August 28th, 2023. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
And the following sabbatical leaves are confirmed by the board. No questions or objections, like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Mr. Renzi, do you have anything to add?
I have nothing to
Mr. Harshman?
add. Nothing, thank you.
Mrs. Coconut?
Nothing else, thank you.
Dr. Coons?
I have nothing, thank you.
Did I catch them all? Nothing from the executive session? I didn't miss any? Did I get them all?
He said that's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lake. Moving to policy and legislative, Mr. Martre.
Thank you, Mr. Penzo. We have nothing this evening. Mr. Harshman, do you have anything to add?
Nothing, thank you.
That's all we have.
Thank you, Mr. Martre. Moving to safety and security, Mr. Martisi.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Request approval for administration to engage with C2 Tactical Palms Area School District Security Training, August 7th through August 11th, 2023. An approximate cost of $16,500 was paid from the PCCD grant. No questions or objections. I would like that placed on Wednesday's agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval of the security substitute list for the 2023-24 school year. With no questions or objections, I'd like that placed on Wednesday's agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
That's all I have. Mr. Renzi.
I have nothing, Mr. Martucci. Thank you.
Mr. Coconut.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Carbeck. That's all, Mr. Panzella, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martucci. Sticking with you with special education, please.
Okay, thank you again. Request for the agreement between Lillian Heights and the Collinsville Area School District for educational services at an annual tuition cost of $28,296, subject to the Collinsville Area School District's standard terms and conditions for the purchase of goods and services. The previous agreement was for an annual tuition of $26,946. No questions or objections. I'd like that placed on Wednesday's agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
And that's all I have. Mr. Layton.
Nothing, thank
Mrs. Sangston.
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. D'Amico.
you. Nothing, thank you.
That's all, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Mr. Martucci. Student Services, Mrs. Sangston.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Request for Stephanie Lemonishon, Tori Sparks, and Christine Hunt to attend the 23rd Safe and Supportive Learning Environments Prevention Before the Crisis Summit on August 16th and 17th at the Patton Central in Harrisburg with all costs paid through Patton's Comprehensive Support Grant. Questions or objections? I would like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request for the Cooperative School Nurse Practicum Affiliation Agreement between the Collinsville Area School District and Eastern School of Nursing for McKinley Orndorff for up to 100 clinical hours to be obtained in the spring of 23-24 school year, no cost to the district, subject to the Collinsville Area School District standard terms and conditions for the purchase of the goods and services. No questions or objections? I would like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval of the yearly non-athletic supplementals for 23-24 school year as proposed. No questions or objections, I would like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval to implement positive action through grant funding from the Fayette County Drug and Alcohol Commission with all professional development costs paid through the ARP easers. Any questions or objections, I would like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
Request approval for the supplementary resignation of prom co-advisor effective immediately. No questions or objections, I would like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
And we have travel, we have 1 through 1 and 2. Any questions or objections, I would like that on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
That's all I have. Mr. Harshman,
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. D'Amico,
Nothing, thank you.
that's all we have.
Thank you, Mrs. Sangston. Moving to technology, Mr. Harshman.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. Item 21A, Technology Employee Substitute List. Request approval for the Technology Employee Substitute List for the 2023-2024 school year. No questions or objections. I'd like that placed on the agenda.
Hearing none, that will be placed on the agenda.
That's all I have, Mr. Martucci.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Martray. Mr. Ghost. That's all we have, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harshman. Moving to transportation, Mr. Kokenauer.
Thank you, Mr. Panzella. We have nothing to put on the agenda at this time. Mr. Lake? Mr. Renzi? That's all we have, Mr. Panzella. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kokenauer. Nothing under the president's reports. We have no non-agenda items. Assistance to superintendent.
I have nothing, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.